Welcome back to the world of True Detective. It has been 5 long years without this show, and it's sort of rebooted with the new writer, director, and showrunner, Isa Lopez. Will it live up to hype? We'll be here every week breaking down the episode, and I will give you my theories on what I think is actually going on in this show. Sorry about the audio, but I'm stranded in the airport in Tennessee, so I wish I could do it better, but next week it will be. So let's get right into it. This rendition of True Detective Night Country is set in the fictional town of Alaska, and it is a mining post that is so close to the North Pole that one December night, the sun sets for the last time, leading into weeks of endless night. In a departure from past installments, we see that we're given two female leads. One is Jodie Foster, who's playing Liz, the police chief, and the other is Kylie Reyes, a former boxer who is playing Navarro, a state trooper who is haunted by the unsolved murder of a local woman. Now, the first thing the Night Country is trying to get us to understand about Alaska, and it goes through a lot of painstakingly ways to do so, is to let us know that this place extremely cold. Not only is it extremely cold, but it's wild, and it's a place that most people can't live. Also is because of the age of the ice itself. And because of that, scientists all over like to come here when trying to research the origins of Earth because of the age of this ice. And that is what they're supposed to be doing at this station. Now, this research lab was stocked with 8 men, and all 8 of these men go missing. But we get one clue. They give us one clue early in the game, and that clue is in the form of a whisper, and the whisper is, she's awake. The next time we see this place, all the men have vanished, and the only evidence of wrongdoing is a severed human tongue that is on the floor under the kitchen island. Now, this case belongs to Liz and her homeboy, second in command, Hank, but being them both to the scene is Pete, who happens to be Hank's son. And we can see that there's a little bit of tension between them because it seems like the son has a lot more respect for the chief of police than he does his own father. At this time, it's the 3rd day of the perpetual darkness situation that's going on there in Alaska, and it's the 7th since anyone has heard anything from the men in the international crew. Now, their TV is still loud as hell, and their cell phones are all messed up and scattered all around. If we look at the whiteboard, we can see that it says, "We are all dead." And they didn't have that on there. A lot of people might have thought that maybe these people went out for a walk, maybe they're gonna come back, because it didn't look too bad of a scene until we actually seen that. And that kind of brings up our first mystery, asking, why are these cops up here without a warrant? Now, Hank, who people might think is a misogynist, it seems that he is, believes that this is exactly what is going on in this place. But anyway, Liz does call in the search and rescue chopper. Besides the human tongue lying on the floor, she does realize that the men have already been missing for days because the mayo on the abandoned sandwiches has gone runny. And if you've ever had a sandwich with mayonnaise, you know that once it goes runny, because usually it's thick, it's been a while. Now, although Hank has no love for his chief, we can see easily that it's not because she's a woman that she's got this position, it's because of her skill set that she's got that position. Now, she knows from the jump that it's a native woman's tongue. Why does she know that? Because the scar from licking thread to mend fishing nets on the ground. Now, Hank and his boy are not their real partner on this case, thank God, because I would not want to see them in this whole show. But by the time we get back to HQ, Navarro is there waiting for Liz in her office because it doesn't take long for the rumor of a severed human tongue to travel through this barren scape of Alaska. Now, the cold case that is still messing with Navarro is the one of a murdered woman named Annie Kay. Now, she was a local activist whose dead body was found, surprisingly, or maybe not, without a tongue. Now, Liz tries to blow this off and say this is just a coincidence, but in truth, there's no way of knowing that. She just wants to get Navarro out of her office at this time. And during this episode, we do get a little backstory on why they actually don't like each other, why Liz doesn't like her, because she used to work with her together until Navarro was forced to go to the trooper's office. Liz does go off the rail, and I have to say, on some racist type shit, talking about her spirit animal, but she doesn't really lean into it. So I don't know if she's really racist or she's just saying that just to get back at him. We don't really know exactly the personal level of what's going on between these two ladies. Once Navarro bounces, Liz looks around and she goes to Hank and she asks him for Annie's case file, because come on, how many of these tongues of these type women are gonna go missing in Alaska? Can't be too many. She knows what's going on there. And we see some shady shit from Hank, because it turns out that he was keeping some records at his house for some reason. And it seems like he's not really trying to help find out what's going on with this tongue and this lady Annie at all. He seems to be dragging his feet on this one. Now, it could only be one of two things that's going on here. Number one, Hank could just be trying to fuck with his boss because he doesn't like her because she's a woman, or he could have some type of connection to Annie that he doesn't want to get out there. It has to be one or the other. Liz, wanting these files and knows that she can't get it, goes to his son Pete and has him to go jack these files out of his father's spot. But this causes beef between Pete and his wife, Kayla. Kayla is a nursing student, and her and Pete have a son named Darwin. It's clear to see that he's not trying to be the dad that his dad was to him, because his dad was a shitty dad to him, and he's really trying to step up and flip that mold. But although his wife and son seem to be against this whole situation, he does risk it and listens to his boss and follows orders. It seems the kids out here in Alaska be wilding out because Liz gets called away by work by Ennis's mom, who's angry that Liz's stepdaughter Leia was making a sex tape with her 16-year-old daughter. While she's screaming at Leia inside of the truck, she hits an ice slick. Leia worries that they've hit something. As Liz approaches the vehicle that has crashed, they approach, triggers a form of a flashback, some type of half memory, maybe of a similar situation, the way her feet crushed on the ice. Now, it seems like everybody in this town knows each other, and that is why the missing men, this seems so odd. Like, there's no way that this is supposed to happen, and they can't understand why this would happen. Now, expanding on everybody knowing each other, the driver of the car was a town drunk, and this person sleeps with Hank. Hank's son used to babysit Leia. Pete then snatches the files from his father's house, and we finally get an account of exactly what happened to Annie. Annie was a young midwife, an activist whose body was found at the edge of the village, which is to say abandoned and in an ice-cold shipping container. Navarro was the first cop on the scene, and when she did, she found this woman who was beaten, kicked, punched, and stabbed over 30 times. Her tongue was removed, which could be very significant because we know, if you like mafias, that if you're in the mafia and you rat on the mafia, they will cut your tongue out. And it seems that Annie was doing some protesting against these mining companies, so it's quite possible that this cutting out of her tongue was symbolic. Because it turns out that the mines in this town is what makes it go round. This is where they get all of the jobs from, and if anything happens to these mines, a whole lot of people are gonna be put out of work. So it could be a lot of people who would be upset with her protesting. Now, Liz says that Navarro was obsessed with this case until Hank, who was in charge of the squad before Liz arrived, put her on the bench for pestering a whole bunch of mining execs, which he probably had no choice but to do. Now, in dealing with crime shows like True Detective, not only do you have to solve the crime, but in order to solve the crime, you must first crack the people who are investigating the crime and figure out what makes them tick. Like, how did Liz become the way she did? Well, we can take a hint from what Leia says, kind of hinting at that her father died, and what could have been a similar type situation that happened to them in a drunk driving type accident. Not sure if that's exactly the case, but we can clearly see that Liz is somewhat messed up inside, and we need to get to the bottom of that in order to get to the bottom of this case. We then see her make a crazy type of a dream about a boy whispering, "Mommy." He puts his hand on her shoulder. Then she hears that voice say, "She's awake." Now, dealing with Navarro, it's hard to see exactly what's going on with her, though her origins aren't as mysterious as Liz's. We know that she's in the military. She's a vet who did tours in the Middle East, and they convinced her that each of us, even God, is alone in the world. She's responsible for her sister Julia, who lives in the town and suffers from delusions and other mental health issues. And it seems that these mental health issues have been passed down because she has seen these same signs in her mother. Anytime Liz awakes from her dream, we see that Navarro hears the same whisper, "She's awake." Liz finds a child's old and dirty polar bear at her feet, just as Navarro stops her car short of hitting a polar bear that just wandered into town. Now, because she can't sleep, Liz then starts taking all the pictures and arranging them on the board, and that's when she gets her first major break, and she sees that Annie's pink parka was being worn by a scientist called Raymond Clark. Liz then sets out into the darkness to investigate the only lead that she has, and when she gets to the crime scene, lo and behold, Navarro is already there. Now, Navarro, who has been engulfed in this case for all these years, has never heard Clark's name before. So now she's inside the room, knowing that this coat is going to hold some of the answers. Now, during this episode, we get introduced to a woman called Rose, and we see her gutting a wolf when a man with no shoes, and how you're outside in this cold with no shoes is beyond me, takes her onto the ice, and then we see the people who are gone missing. They are naked, and we can see that their mouth is open and their tongues are still attached. Right before the episode ends, we see then learn that the barefooted man's name is Travis, and that Travis is dead. Now, me, myself, I knew this before it was told to us. I really didn't need to be told that. It was kind of obvious to me. Now, I'm going to go into theories in my next video. Again, I apologize for the sound. I am locked in the airport, been here for 3 days straight. Hopefully, I can make it home today. But you tell me in the comment section what you think is going on. In my next video, I will start dropping all my theories, and I promise you that my audio will be back to normal and I'll be back in the crib. So, if you like the way I do this, please thumbs up this, spread this across the realm, and of course, subscribe. And until next time, you know who it is. Peace and stay sexy.